And my colleagues there honored me with service on the Ways and Means Committee, the committee with jurisdiction over the tax code. I literally had a hand in writing those landmark tax cuts of 2001 and 2003. On both occasions, John McCain went to the well of the United States Senate, not only voted no, but voted no and called those tax cuts that reinvigorated our economy, he called them, and I quote, tax cuts for the rich. Again, sounding a lot more like John Kerry than the John McCain you and I used to know. You've been very patient. I think I've made it clear that I have respect for our senior senator. And amidst all the folderol and all the ads, and please understand what's going on, because I've just briefly encapsulated the central tenets of Mr. McCain's record in Washington, D.C. He cannot run on that record. So he chooses and tries to change the subject by demonizing me and spending millions of dollars to do it, which is kind of ironic too. Mr. Campaign Finance Reform, utilizing loopholes. It's okay, it's fine. This year it will be different. This will be the year where the power of the grassroots and something so valuable as to be priceless will predominate this entire process. And that is your vote. I believe you're going to agree with me that on August 24th we will say to our senior senator, John, thank you for your service. Now welcome home. It is time for a consistent conservative instead of a convenient conservative in the United States Senate. That is my goal, and I ask for your help there. One final note, because it's obvious that I will have no trouble filibustering when I get to the Senate, and you've been generous with your time. Let me make this point about time. Mary and I have spoken about it. We've had a family discussion on it. We just feel this in our hearts. Should you honor us with a chance to serve in the United States Senate, it is my public declaration that if you will allow me to serve 2 consecutive terms, that will be it. It'll be time for me to step aside and for another citizen to serve us in the United States Senate. I have other ideas about term limits, a few more things to say about other topics, but what's more important is what you have to say and your questions. Let me open the floor now and take your questions. Let me go to the very back. Yes, sir.
J.D., I've always been wanting to ask this question, and I've really had some problems understanding it. Thank you for recognizing me. We all know that the size of government in those of us who believe in conservative views is directly related to the economics of our nation. In order to improve the economics of our nation, we have to downsize the size of government. And how would you propose to do that? I foresee that when we make these steps of reducing government, we are pulling back on entitlements. We are pulling back on those expenditures that other people depend on. So it's going to be a rough road to do that. And it's going to be, in my view, at the risk of political endeavors.
I would agree. And in those few brief sentences, you have given the essence of the challenge that confronts us. But there is no doubt that if young Jacob and our other young friends are to have any type of future, we are going to have to be actively involved in a new age of austerity. We don't have any other choice. So here are the immediate steps we could take. You mentioned the size of government. As I said in the debate the other night, the first thing that ought to be done, since the Cook County Saul Alinsky crowd, now in this administration, working in cahoots with the leftist Congress, came up with that wildly misnamed stimulus since about, what, last time I checked, over half of that, $800+ billion remains unspent. The very first thing that should be done is all of those funds should be designated to debt relief, step number one. Step number two, you talked about literally the size of government. Now that Mr. Obama has put in place so many of his minions, and you see the left views government as our one growth industry. That's why now virtually 20% of the government workforce, 1 out of every 5 federal bureaucrats is pulling down a 6-figure salary. And with their efforts to grow government, the second thing that should happen, not only you take that half of the unspent stimulus money, apply it to debt relief, right now there should be a hiring freeze across government. Because there are positions that quite frankly should remain unfilled within the vast bureaucracy. And then you got to the big thing on the agenda. Big E, entitlements. Because so many Americans depend on those entitlements. What do? Well, my old colleague in the House, Paul Ryan, served with me on the Ways and Means Committee, is now the ranking member of the House Budget Committee. He's tried to put together a comprehensive, not like comprehensive immigration reform, but a complete look at how we restructure entitlements. And I can't say I check off on everything on the list, but I think he's gotten a good start. One thing I freely understand, one piece of errata, one factoid that crossed my desk once upon a time, had to do with the year of my birth. And I can't vouch for the authenticity of this, but I remember the factoid. Apparently, according to population experts and those who examine census figures, more American men were born in the year 1958 than any other in our history. It was the very apogee of our baby boom. We've not been called on, and I just turned 52 last week, we've not been called on to make any serious sacrifices. Now, it is true, the Reagan-O'Neill Social Security panel, the Blue Ribbon Bipartisan Commission back in the early 80s, raised retirement age. But the fact is, for my generation, it's going to be raised again. That's one step that's going to have to take place. The other thing we're going to have to take a look at for younger people, and it's the irony, it's mirrored in the use of the internet. What's so great about the internet? We don't have a massive command and control structure. In the old days, when I tried to take a course on computer engineering or computer science when I was at North Carolina State, before the advent of the personal computer, you would go out on these cards and you would put together something that would be sent to a supercomputer in the Research Triangle Park in North Carolina, and it was like sending film to be developed, and if there was one mistake in those digital codes, the whole thing would go kerflooey. What happened with computers? We gave power to the people through personalization. The same thing is going to have to happen for my kids, for your grandkids, to personalize retirement accounts rather than that heavy command and control structure. We have no choice. Those kind of reforms will have to take place. But as you said, the table is set in formidable fashion because the wailing and gnashing of teeth, you may remember our first term in the House, when the left and their friends of the networks trying to say, you're trying to throw grandma off Medicare and you're trying to starve school kids. And we went on the defensive going, oh, no, we're not. We're not really cutting things. We're just reducing the rate of growth. Those days and that defensive posture can't stand. This time, there are going to have to be real reductions, especially in discretionary spending, and we're going to have entitlement reform. And we're going to have the courage of our convictions to get it done. Or Jacob and our other young friends who are here tonight will have no future in our constitutional republic. Let me go over to the corner. It's a guy who's about to turn 50 in a couple of weeks.
Be quiet.
But see, he still looks young, and let's see, we're going to get you the mic too. It's Mark, the mic guy, right? Is that right? Mark, the mic guy's name is Mark. who is Mark, the mic guy, will hand the mic over. I believe it's David there, right, David?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.